Welcome to Arts Dynamics Talks. I am Sofie Marin, founder and CEO of Arts Dynamics, and I am so happy to be back yet another week to speak with an amazing creator who will share his top insights, learnings, all his reflections that he has from his long career within the music industry. And also we're going to look into future trends. You can already see him here on the screen, and I will soon do a proper introduction. But first, maybe you want to just say hi, Niclas, to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. And this is a live stream podcast series that I founded to be able to speak with creative entrepreneurs around the world to figure out what they're doing to scale their artistic businesses, to digitize, to monetize, and to make a bigger impact doing what they love. And we know that we live right now in rather turbulent times, and there are many challenges that we see in our industry, but also with that comes a lot of opportunity. So I am just so excited, Niclas, to talk to you today about your perspective from the music industry. And you have a long background as a songwriter, as a producer, a music entrepreneur, and not only creating yourself, but also leaving a big impact now in the world of music rights and empowering creators to help them monetize and keep track of their data. So Niclas, over to you. Can you please just share a little bit about yourself for the people who are watching?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and first, welcome to my studio. I thought that this is the best place to be when we going to talk about these subjects today. So, yeah, my name is Niclas Molinder. I am 52 years old, born and raised in Sweden. Music has always been my big passion. I started for real when I was 13, 14 years old, and I got really into it, started my bands and stuff. And then it's been a long journey, uh, plus 20 years as a songwriter and music producer. Pretty successful during our top years, and then that turned over to be an advocate for creators and really start digging deep into the back office of the music industry to figure out how things works. And the reason for that was that I was so frustrated when I got my royalty statements, why I didn't understand anything, why it most of the time was less money than I expected. And I heard the same thing from so many other creators. So one thing led to another, and I started a few initiatives, a company, a foundation, to really help creators in the world understand how things works, and also have tools for helping them to make a proper living, and make sure that they get compensated when their music is used. So yeah, that is me.
Well, that's amazing. And I hear from a lot of music creators that it's rather hard to navigate the music industry per se. We are here often for the passion, maybe not necessarily because we want to make money, but at the same time, you need the money to be able to, to create music. So what are your thoughts on that? And with your career, looking back?
Oh, wow. This is what I'm doing on a daily basis. So just you saying what you just said makes my stomach go, oh, there's so much to say here. But yeah, so I see it from two aspects. If we start from the industry aspect, um, the music industry we have, and I know all creators listening now, don't be angry with me because I call the song a product. But let's say that we put something out to the market because we want to get paid for it when people are using it. I see it as a product. And we have a very complex product because there are many times so many different people involved doing different things. And so therefore, they're so hard for the industry to really figure out, to find ways to find everyone that's been involved. But in the when the industry has been formed over years, it's the formats, how consumers in the world listen to our songs has changed so fast and different. I mean, just during my career, when I started, it was cassette. My first own release was on vinyl, and then MP3 streaming. And so it's so quick, and the systems for keeping track of all information and distribution of money has not really kept up with the fast pace of distribution. So it has, the music industry as a whole is very complicated. So what starts really simple in the studio with a couple of people creating music and having fun turns out to be very complex in the end when the music is available in the whole world and there's money that's going to be distributed. So it's one part of the problem is how the music industry is structured, and we can get back to that later in this conversation, how things works and what you as a creator need to do to make sure that things get as right as possible before the music is released. So the music industry with itself, and for everyone here that works in the music industry in one way or another, you know that how many acronyms do we have? We have so many terms and acronyms, and we don't ourselves don't even understand what everything means. So it's that's in itself is complicated. The second challenge is we creators ourselves. As you said, we are so driven by passion. We're here in the studio, and there's actually one thing that is more important than anything else. That is what comes out of the speakers, the actual song that we're creating, and that's what we should focus on. Of course, that is the most important thing. But we as creator are in the front of the line, screaming, shouting, and complaining that we don't get credited and paid. But we're also not even interested in the admin side of it, and really make sure that we are identified and the industry knows who we are and can find us when our music is used in the world. So there is those two problems are what I'm dealing with on a daily basis to really try to find solution how to make the industry more streamlined and more efficient when it comes to all the management of all the information, and also shake the creators of the world and do what you do, but take 0.01% of your time to just make sure that you know who did what, when, where, and when on a song, so the industry can find you. So those are the two problems we need to focus on.
Yeah, and I love that we're able to have this conversation because you've been in the industry forever. I've also been in the industry for a very long time. And I have to say, it can be quite hard to find information because you don't have, or you haven't had until maybe now. So I'll let you share a little bit more about that very soon. But like a centralized place where you can go and actually find the resources for that. With Arts Dynamics, that's what we're now doing, creating an ecosystem for creators within the cultural and creative industries as a whole. But then let's say for the music industry, the ecosystem in the music industry is so huge, as you said, with so many different organizations and different paths to take as a creator. So where do you go and where do you find that? And let's just move into the platform that you are currently helping, to develop.
Yeah. So when I think it's 10 years ago now, I got to a point, me and my songwriter and production partner Joachim, we still have our production company in it's still running, but we came to a point where we couldn't really keep up delivering all the songs that were requested from us, which is good because that meant that many artists in the world needed our songs. So we did, as so many others, we started a publishing company and we became a production house. And I was a bit naive at the time because I thought I could run a publishing company and a production house from an administrative perspective with my right hand and still be here in the studio writing, producing music. But that was when I realized how complex and hard it is to get the information. Because what is it? What is it actually? What is it that we need? So simple, really simplified. And I say we, I mean the whole industry, what the system needs. We need to know who did what, where, and when on a song. And we get back to that term, song, because that is one of the reasons that things are so complicated. So we need to figure out who did what, where, and when on a song. And that information needs to be transferred to 5 numbers, 5 identifiers, 5 numbers that controls and manage the whole infrastructure in the whole music industry. Without those 5 numbers, identifiers as we call them, if they are not assigned, linked, and matched before the first release of a song, we lose control, because the data is now going to be spread out to thousands of different databases around the world, and it's impossible to update and change all places afterwards. So we need to make sure that they are properly assigned before the release. But we cannot do that if the creators, the only ones that knows the truth about everything, if they don't say, hey, I did this or I did that, there's impossible to make sure that the identifiers are right. And then we release it to the market. And if it's a hit, it's going to generate a lot of money from different sources around the whole world. And the money comes in, but the industry cannot find the people behind that song because they don't know who they are. And that money is then going to be called unidentified, or as some people say, part of the black box, unidentified money. That means the industry sits on the cash, but they don't know how to distribute it. Not, by by any wrong. They're not doing it for bad purposes, but they don't know where to send the money. And there we are on the other side, creators complaining that we don't get paid, but we maybe have money there if they only know where to pay it to. So when I really, I think it was a early days when we started our publishing company, me and my partner, and he was more focused, my partner was more focused on the creative side. I took care more of the admin side of it. And one of our songwriters came back, and I think they have been to New York writing a song with a very generic title. It could have been I Miss You or whatever, as so thousands of other songs. And they wrote it together with DJ Pete. And I was like, okay, great, but do we know anything more? No, DJ Pete, we bounced into each other, and that was the only information I got as a publisher. I Miss You with DJ Pete. There was no split, no other information. It took me so long time to figure out who this DJ Pete was. Was that guy's manager, publisher? What was the split? Do we have the same view of what the title is and how it's spelled? And that's when I realized we need a system for this. We need a tool. Split sheets. Songwriters has been used to split sheets, and I've been, but it's when I started, it was on paper, and still, how do you know that everyone is using the same paper? Text messages. No, I thought, why not use technology and use our phones for it and use on computers? So I came up with an idea of not only capturing all the data, but also solve a number of other pain points that we creators have. Because I know that we creators are not interested in data. As soon as you mention the word data to someone, you just see how you lose them immediately, because that's boring, you don't understand. So, but we don't have a one-stop shop for, on a song level, to have audio files, lyrics, everyone involved in, more like a collaboration space for a specific song. So with that idea, I had the great honor and the great opportunity to start a company with two other Swedish, really successful creators, Björn Ulvaeus from ABBA and Max Martin. The three of us started a company together. And I love to drop their names because it actually makes me feel like a better songwriter for a second, because I can drop their names. But that was not actually the case, actually. But so we started this company, and this is 10 years ago. And my God, that's been a journey to try to change the industry and how the industry captures data at the point of creation, so everything is right, so the identifiers can be assigned before the first release. But it's been it's been good, and we're still very active. The company is now based in the UK, in London. So we are part of a big group called Salt, which provides IT solutions for the industry. So Session really sits in the right context now, and in a new family. But I'm still involved, and I'm still there, so it's good. But what you were saying about access to information, that was a second part of this, because I was with the work with this tool, and my own experience from being in the studio, I realized that creators generally internationally have too little knowledge about how the industry works and why you need to identify yourself to get the numbers, because the majority of the creators in the world don't even know what the 5 numbers are, and especially 3 of them. If you don't know them because they belong to you personally as a creator, you can equal that, try to go to the bank without your social security number, don't know your bank account number, and try to withdraw cash. You will get zero. It's exactly the same here. So to change that, I also came up with an idea about a really scalable, easy to access digital awareness platform that should be available to all creators in the world. A place where you can go to anytime you need to know something about how the music industry works. And Björn and Max thought that that was a good idea as well. So we started a foundation completely separate from the other things that we do, because that are commercial companies, and so we wanted to do something that is free and available to everyone, neutral. So we started a foundation called Music Rights Awareness Foundation, and we partnered with the UN agency WIPO in Geneva. An amazing collaboration, and I'm really, really thankful for WIPO doing what they normally can't do due to UN policies to interact too much to the private sector. But we did a private-public partnership and created an organization called WIPO for Creators, with one purpose: to make that platform, that education awareness platform, come alive. And a long journey that we can go into more in detail if you want. But November 17th last year, we launched CLIP. It stands for Creators Learn Intellectual Property. So it is a platform that not only will help music creators. Over time, there will be other IP artistic areas available on the platform, but right now it's music. So CLIP is a unique platform in many ways. It's a unique collaboration between our foundation and WIPO, but we also have all the international music industry trade organization, which means organization that represents all the companies and organizations in the whole industry worldwide. We have those organizations on our advisory board, and together we have developed a lot of education content that is for the first time ever approved legally by the whole industry. So if you go to CLIP, that is correct. You don't have to ask, is this right or not? It is correct because the industry has says, yes, this is how we legally would say that it works.
Yeah,
And
I just have to say, can I just say, for you, those of you listening now, because I know we've got many from the music industry, but we've also got other industries in the wider creative ecosystem. What Niclas is saying now is super important, because as entrepreneurs, and we are all about developing, thriving art entrepreneurs, you need to have to keep track of the data. Exactly what you're saying. We're talking about that a lot as you start growing and scale your artistic business. You need to understand the data so you can have direct contact with your audiences, with your buyers, so that you understand your own customer pathway that we say, in entrepreneurial lingo, and, your product pathway, all the things that you offer. But what is often missing is an understanding of the rights, your IP, and those are your assets as a creator. And any entrepreneur in any industry would have the same issue. You need to have assets, otherwise you won't have a sustainable business. So what I love about this, Niclas, because I remember you and I met at an industry event. We've met at several, but I remember one when we met, and you talked about CLIP, and when you shared about that, it was like, wow, here we finally have a solution that seems to be, as you said, on top of these areas. And what I hear you say is not only for the music industry, but also for other industries too. We'll make sure we put a link to this platform in the show notes. I just want to mention that. So please go ahead, Niclas, continue.
Yeah, so it was so interesting, because when you create music, you create intellectual property, and just taste those two words, intellectual property. What does it mean? When I started this, I had no idea, and so many creators out there don't even know how legally it all fits together for what they're creating. So I mean, before we started CLIP, we checked out, there's so much brilliant education content out there already. So I mean, I don't say that CLIP is the only place to go to. There are so many others. But one thing that was a bit confusing for me, and now I know this inside out because I've worked with it so many years, that on so many places that there are information that contradicts with each other. It's like, oh, and I don't really understand. So what's good with CLIP is that it's correct. It's how the industry explains it, all aligned together. Yes, this is how it should be explained. And then second, inconsistent terminology. Let's talk terms for a second. How are we as creator supposed to understand everything? In one article, I remember specifically, pretty good written, but in the same article, tune, song, track, and maybe it was a fourth explanation, work probably, was like, what is what here? There's so many terms and they are used in an inconsistent way, so it messes up our head because we don't really understand what it means. Let's take song, for example. We say song all the time, but if we go back to what we said before, that runs the whole industry from an administration perspective, that makes sure that gets you paid, the 5 identifiers, there's nothing called a song. Song don't exist. Song is a combination of 2 things, and this is something we actually could talk a bit about. So and because I love to spread the message about this, it's a musical work, which is a musical work contains of a composition and lyrics, and this is what the songwriters do. And songwriters are represented by publishers and CMOs, societies that help songwriters and publishers. That 50% of the song. The second 50%, the second half, is the recording. And that is the artist, the producer, the performers, the label. And there are also CMOs or societies helping performers to get their compensation when the recording is used. So as a creator, you need to know which side are you part of. And most of the time today, you as a creator, you are part of both. Then it's so important that your role, your contribution on either side is that information is captured at the point when you do it, because if someone asks you 6, 12, 24 months later, you completely forgot it because you have been in so many other situations. So you need to, when you have it fresh, because that information needs to then be transferred to the 5 identifiers. And why is this so important with identifiers? Yeah, because we cannot use names. I mean, names, for example, to make this system work, we need full legal names of everyone involved. My full legal name, my second name, includes a funny Swedish letter, an A with a ring on top of it. The majority of the people in the world don't have on their keyboard, so they cannot even write my name. There are more people with exactly the same name as I have as well. So when there are more people in the world with same names, we need other systems for doing it. And that goes the same with musical works and sound recordings. They have the same names. So therefore, the numbers are needed. And the numbers are international. So if my musical work or recording is used anywhere in the world, the same number applies everywhere in the world. So this is why this is so important. And this is what I wanted to explain in an easy to understand way. So Clip is not only a place where you find legally approved content, we have also done a glossary for the first time, a glossary that the whole music industry has together have sit down and said, what is a song? What is a musical work? What is a sound recording? And on the platform, it's super easy to understand, because every time those words are used, and we use them exactly the same words for the same thing. We don't mix tune, track, in the same article. And every time one of those words come, they are clickable and you get explanation of the word directly on the screen. So Clip, and we also have a lot of video content, so you can see and listen to another creator in a nice studio environment that explains to you how it works. And if you want to know more, you scroll down and you read. And Clip is available for free to every creator in the whole world. Right now in English, but we're later this year, hopefully the first half of this year, we will launch the other 5 official UN languages. So it will be available in 6 different languages. So that is Clip. And the address is goclip.org. It's completely free. Even if you're a music creator, a music person that works in the music industry, or if you're just interested in the music industry, go there and you find everything you need.
This is mind-blowing. And again, I remember you talking about it. And even now when you look at the website, you're like, holy cow, this is going to be massive. So yes, do go and check that out. And again, we will post a link in the show notes. I have a question for you. For those that actually don't know what a CMO is or what a split means, can you please just explain those two terms?
Yeah, so CMO stands for Collective Management Organization, and that is they can be called societies. Sometimes for songwriters, they can be called PROs. So already here it gets confusing. But a CMO, a Collective Management Organization, is most of the time a member-driven organization. So you become a member of a CMO, and then a CMO on your behalf makes sure to collect the money that owes to you when either your musical work or your performance on a sound recording is used somewhere in the world. And we don't have and this is why I recommend to go to Clip, because if we start because then you can start breaking it down. As a songwriter, there are two different rights: public performance and mechanical rights. And now we get deep into, we need 2 hours to explain it, so I don't think we should dig too deep into the different rights. But as a creator, you need, and everything this applies if we say it all the traditional old way of doing it. There are other ways to get your music out to the market. Some sell their music, so-called buyouts, and there are other, but now we talk about the traditional way with the representation by a CMO. So, and to get those identifiers that we talk about, and maybe we should mention them as well. So you need a CMO relationship. So check out if you're a songwriter, a performer, or both in your country or in any country, because you can pick any organization in the world you want to what's there and what they can provide to you, and become a member of a CMO. That is the first step you should do as a songwriter and performer. So
Yeah, sorry. And on that note, because you said that, and I agree, is super important. We also know, parallel to this, that we see more and more. You talked about buyouts, but we also see that many creators are either wanting to sell. They don't want to be linked, or they might want to do both. They want to be linked to a collective rights society, and they want to sell to another organization that might, like Epidemic Sound or others, where they can just hand it off immediately. But those right now, at least, we are not able to combine the two. What are you? Because I was on a panel, and for those of you who might not know this, when I was director of cultural affairs at STIM, I was on a panel. Niclas, you were moderating, and I remember you asking me about the vast amounts of data that we had and what my thoughts were on Epidemic Sound. And you can totally tell the whole room just went silent, and they were like, oh, this is like an elephant in the room. We don't talk about these different in the same sentence. But at the same time, that's where we are. That's where we're heading. It's happening whether we like it or not. And I just would love your take on that. How do they work together? How should they work together? What is your opinion?
So my opinion is, as a creator, if you create something, it's totally up to you what you want to do with it. Since the music industry made it so complicated and just, I mean, I have songs that are very successful in Brazil, for example, and to me, to get that money from those, it takes 24 months in average to get the money. And when I received 1 Swedish krona here, I have no idea how much it costs, to get me the Swedish krona, but I get it. And the statements are complicated and long, so I don't even bother reading it. I just take my Swedish krona and I'm happy and continue working here. So because it's so complicated, I understand why creators choose the option to, I need money now, I need to pay my rent now, I need food on the table. Here I have a company that pays for me to write a musical work and a sound recording for them. So I understand that they do that, and I think it's okay. I think that you as a creator need to be able to do whatever you want. It's different from country to country how it works, because here in Sweden I'm a STIM member. STIM is the organization here, and they don't allow me as a STIM member to do those kind of work for an external company that want to buy. So then I need to leave STIM, and then I need to become a member again. So it works different from country to country. So my answer is, as a creator, I want to have my freedom to do whatever I want. But what I have opinions about is how the companies out there that are using music. In Sweden, for example, we have a governmental controlled broadcast network, the Swedish television. Is it okay that they use music in the majority of all their TV shows that is bought out? Shouldn't they more promote the traditional way of doing it and pay royalties for it? It's complicated question, but I have more opinions about the users of bought out music and the actual fact that creators have the right to sell to whoever they want. So I think that when we have all those discussions, make sure that those who distribute and use the music are doing it fair, and use bought out music in a controlled way as much as possible. On the other hand, if I'm a music user, I'm a TV channel, or I'm a company that's going to do a commercial and I want music, to get the rights to use that music from the old traditional way with publishers and labels, it takes forever to get all the rights because there's so many involved stakeholders. If I go to a company that owns the music, I get a price and I just get the music, and it takes a second. So that is also what we as an industry should work on, a more simplified way for users of music to get the rights for using music. But again, back to what we start talking about, if the industry don't even know who we are that created the music, it's impossible to give the right to use something for a commercial because we don't know who created the music. So again, it falls back to the creators. A long answer, but that's my view on it.
It is a good answer. And it does lead us to the one topic that everybody talks about. And I think we cannot avoid it here either. And that is the whole discussion about AI and music, AI and art, AI for creators, and also the consumer, as you said, the people who actually consume what we create. There's a huge shift. We know that AI has been trained on material that it wasn't allowed to be trained on. And we know that there are, I say we know, if you don't know, for those of you watching now, we are seeing more and more around the world right now that there are a lot of legal, how do you say that? There is a lot of
regulations and
regulations. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Basically, to figure out how to regulate AI and make sure, again, it's being used in a fair way. And if it's too hard and too tricky to understand, where to go for the rights and so, then you can just create your own music, and then you don't have that problem for your podcast, for your video, whatever. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying I'm seeing that. So from your perspective and with what you are working with, what are your thoughts on the role of AI in music for music creators, and also when it comes to monetization of what we do?
Oh yeah, and first I must say I think what AI is doing now is I've not seen anything like this before. And during my years, in the industry, I've been seeing tech trends come and go, and blockchain was there for many years, and everyone thought that blockchain was the solution for everything. And then we got, and the funny thing is that I always say about blockchain is a good carrier of data, but if we feed it with the wrong information, then it's totally wrong. And then we got into other type of currencies that could help, electronic currencies that could help, and that was short, that was so short, because then AI came, and AI completely changed how the industry is, relating to technology. I've not seen anything like this before. How fast something, technology changed an industry, for good and bad. I must say, we start on a good part. I mean, so many brilliant tools that helps me here, and then okay, let's say sometimes tool that you can really then, if you use it, you need to question, do you really need to know music to make music? Because you kind of have tools here that, and I've seen some new things that I cannot even believe how it works. Like I have a full blown singer, both female, male, and I choose the lyrics, I just write the lyrics, and out comes a full vocal. I mean, in a way that I've never seen before. So yeah, and so tools, yes, good, but also tools are also the biggest challenge, because what happens if the machine starts making music that is done without humans even touching it? Now we're getting into laws and regulations. Is that considered copyright? Is that unique? And the ongoing discussion that we hear the most now is that when those tools that makes music completely without human touch, all those tools need to learn from something, and what they learn from is already existing music. So should those people that did the music that the machine is now training on, should they get paid when that song is used? And how can you figure out that a thin slice of this song that we now hear includes Björn and Benny's ABBA's influences? I mean, of course, it should be like that if it was fair, but what technology should we use to figure out the percentage of that? So I think that we're going to see an interesting discussion now. There's both in the EU but also in the US that are very, very intense ongoing discussions about this. What can a machine do? Do we need a human touch to say that it should be get copyright? And what does a human touch mean? That I just change one note or one word, is that a human touch enough? And we don't know. So it will bring so much help, but it will create insane chaos for us for the next coming, I don't know how many years before we figure this out. But we've seen it before, in different forms. Just when the MP3 file came and no one paid for music, everyone downloaded before streaming. Everyone said it's over. The music industry is dead. And, I kind of get those kind of vibes today as well. But look what happened. Out came streaming. It became really good. So I think we have a brilliant future with AI, but we need to be a bit careful what we let the machines do. And of course, the consumption is going to control what people in the world want. But with music, a very positive thing with music is that humans love to create music and will never stop doing that, even if we have machines that makes full songs for us. And people also love consuming music from other humans, and go to concerts, see live concerts. So I'm not so worried that humans will be wiped out here and replaced by machines. Not a chance. I think it will be a good thing. And now we have just been talking about music, but all art forms are challenged by this, and we don't even just see it in music. So after this long answer to your question, what I should have said, I don't know. I have no idea what this is going to take us. It's going to be turbulent, but it's going to be fun as well, and hopefully it's going to be productive. And also maybe then, if I'm talk on the other side, if we can use AI technology to, after, if we missed out on the information about who did what, where, and when, if the creators forgot to do that, we maybe can use the AI technology, and we already see features like this and platforms like this that can afterwards figure out who did what, where, and when, so we can compensate people. So AI can be used in a very positive way to track people and pay out money as well.
Yeah, 100%. And we live in fascinating times, as you said. It moves so fast. And right now with AI, it's been trained on previous things. It's not sentient just yet, but we are approaching what most experts at that level says, singularity. And when we're there, AI will just create its own stuff without us. And right now, for those of you watching, even a conversation like this, we use AI, and we record it live, with the video like this. You can pull the transcriptions, you can translate it into all the different languages, you can pull all this information into a hub, which we're actually doing and creating right now an Ars Dynamic Sofie bot, so can answer you 24/7 in every language. Just pull all the information from that. So for those of you who are creators and watching this, whenever you create, you can do that too. You can create your own digital twin, your immersive avatar that's awake 24/7, 365 days a year. And so far it might be fun to play around with it, and you can have, we know artists too, they merge with the latest in technology, and they create their own immersive avatars in the metaverse, or use AI to translate and all of that. But what happens the day when this run, and I come in peace, dear AI, I just want to say that, so for future references. But what happens the day when us as creators, this is more a philosophical question, we use it now, we might do something physical, we might do something in a hybrid version where we meet in person and then add some sort of a digital layer. We do something in the digital realm, but then also in the immersive realm. But what happens the day AI gets so smart, and actually smarter than us, and just runs away with your avatar and your name and your voice and your creative footprint that you have? So I agree with you. Let's be a little bit cautious, have fun, play around with it, but just know that it can basically scrape the entire internet and become you. And I think keep an eye on the US election right now and see what they are doing, because I think that will also help predict what we do here.
And maybe in the end, what started with many years of blockchain discussion, then cryptocurrencies and NFTs, and now AI, the solution is maybe a combo of everything. That blockchain with smart contracts can keep track of what was said and what you recorded, and so on. Who knows? But what I want to add about AI, you just mentioned a number of practical things that you can do with AI during the discussions with NFTs and cryptocurrencies and blockchain. No one could really do anything with it. We talked about what it maybe can do, and when NFTs came, I remember I don't remember of that website, but you could buy a house next to Snoop Dogg and hang out with him in his world there, and you bought a monkey for a virtual monkey for so much money, and I could not really, I didn't really understand. I saw it, but I didn't really understand what it was. Same with blockchain, but AI, I use it all the time, and so that's a huge difference with this new technology, and it's practical for us.
Yeah, it is. And might I ask you a slightly different question, but on the same theme with, the heart and soul of the creator? We're talking about sort of adding a tech layer. We're talking about monetization and making sure you understand your rights, and also making sure that you submit the information so that you get paid, because there's a lot of money out there floating. I have heard a lot recently, more and more, I'd say, the more empowered creative entrepreneurs that we see, I've been told, and I've heard a resistance from not only the outside, but also inside the industry, that the more successful creative entrepreneurs become, the more it will negatively impact public funding. So if we figure out how to monetize ourselves and build thriving artistic businesses and so forth, which you can do today, there are blueprints to do that. That's what we're developing here. That's what you are doing there. But the more you get your artistic and creative freedom and control, the more you understand the money game and understand that exactly what we're talking about, how to track your data, how to set up an ecosystem for yourself as a DIY creator, the more empowered you are. Again, the reasoning is that then that will actually be bad for your colleagues, because then they will not have access to public funding, and maybe yourself too. And I just would love your take on that. What do you see the same? Do you hear the same? And can't we have both? And how do we do that?
Yeah, very good question. And before I answer, I just also want to clarify an acronym you use, DIY, for those who don't know what that means. They do it yourself. It's since it's now possible as a single artist producer to release your sound recording directly without a relationship to a label. We call that DIY, and that is the fast growing part of the music industry. So I just wanted to clarify that. And what you just asked is a really relevant question. So I think that we're in a commercial business. I mean, we want people to hear our music and our songs, but we also want to get paid for it. So I think that it should be no limitation whatsoever for smart people coming up with new brilliant ideas for how to run a company or make music or whatever you want to do. I think that should be the primary, the first option. And then it's an interesting, and this gets more philosophic, how much should the combination between a public commercial market and public official money be? I think what governments can do, I mean, we both live in Sweden, and Sweden we have a beautiful system from our government where, for example, we have a free music school for kids. So whatever instrument you want to play when you're a kid, it's completely free to do it. Unfortunately, there are, as every other area right now, there are, cut downs, and but we have this beautiful system. And to find that right balance between the commercial forces and support in different ways from governments and public money, that I think that's brilliant, but it should never be a limitation for smart people to drive business. That is only positive for a country. So I think it should be a very nice balance between the two.
Yeah, and as you said, because I thought a lot about this lately, because we're
Mm,
all about empowering creatives financially,
mm,
again, deciding for themselves where they want to be on that scale. It's not for us to decide, but it's like at the same time, it is often presented as an either or. But I would
mm,
like to see, and I'm actually open, I'm throwing it out now in the universe to say I would welcome more conversations about the financial empowerment of creators,
mm,
because that will lead to more artistic freedom too. Because if you're not being paid and if you can't sustain yourself, how can you then be artistically free? So it's like a bigger question, if that makes sense. But if we could have a conversation around the empowerment of and financial empowerment, and also how important it is to have a strong, government funding, public funding,
mm,
because it goes to what is a democracy is even a bigger sort of topic, and maybe a talk for another. I just welcome. I would love to have more conversations
mm,
around the core of that, so we don't limit ourselves and creators, and so they have to shrink themselves. You're okay
mm,
to be successful, but don't be too successful. You're okay
mm,
to make money, but don't make too much money. It's like,
mm,
no, go out and
mm.
make money, do good in the world, make a bigger
Yes.
impact.
Totally. And I mean, if you can drive your business on your own without any financial support from a government, do that. And I mean, we shouldn't even get into, but when you said, I don't live in Stockholm, in the Swedish capital. I live in a smaller community outside Stockholm, and I'm kind of involved here in exactly those questions here on our local community. And here we have the balance for how do you financially from our community support culture versus sport, because those are the two areas where official money, governmental money needs to be divided through, and what is most important, how much should you give. And so, but let's not get there because this gets into a political discussion, but very interesting though.
Yeah, exactly. And no, let's not be, when we are not a political body, I want to emphasize that.
No.
It's more a question of, from an entrepreneurial point of view, from a creator point of view, and thank you so much for giving your thoughts on the matter of how to, yeah, you can have both, but how can you do that? Through dialogue and through discussions, and then each to their own, I would imagine. And
Mm.
speaking of impact, Niclas, I'm really curious, what drives you as a creator? What makes your heart tick a little bit extra? What is a legacy you'd like to see?
So I see myself as a completely lost 13-year-old boy. Just started high school, and I was so lost because the format school was not for me. I felt like yeah, I was so lost. I didn't really I'm not made for sit in benches in groups of 35 and just listen to one. That didn't really fit me. So when I was 13 and started high school, for the first time, I got access to the music room in the school, and thanks to the teacher that let me use it. So, and there was a small stage there. I every break we had, the first thing I did was to run to the music room and create music. And there was the first time when I realized that I wanted to be in the music industry, and that word didn't really even exist. I wanted to become an artist. That was my dream. Um, and but in in my age now, I'm 52. When I was a teenager, there was no option of just follow the school programs. You do the high school, and then we have it's called the gymnasium here in Sweden. But you until you're 18, you go into the school system. So when I actually became a chef because that was the most creative profession. I could do things. If I had the option to do something with music, I would have chosen that. Today it's completely different. Thank Lord, it's so much different opportunities for teenagers today to choose whatever they want to do. So, but the dream of becoming that artist has been driving me, and the passion of creating stuff. Now it turned out that I became a producer and songwriter, and that was because I more or less forced myself into a studio as an intern when I realized that the chef profession was not for me. So I managed to find a studio here in the city where I live, and poor those guys that ran the studio back then. I was chasing them until they said, "Oh, let this guy come in. He's chasing us all the time anyhow." So they got me in, and that was how I saw the other side of the music creation side in the studio. Engineers, a lot of things in the, technology in the studio, and producing and writing. And when I was on that intern period, I met a guy that came from a completely different genre background. He was a heavy metal guy. I'm an electronic guy. I listened to Alphaville and Howard Jones and Depeche Mode and Kraftwerk when I was a teenager. He came from a completely different background, and but we clicked. We loved house music too. Even I think he was a bit embarrassed that he, as a heavy metal guy, liked house music, but I don't. By coincidence, we had the opportunity to do a remix together, and I had a studio because I had, So we made a remix for a Dutch label, and believe it or not, the first thing we did became number one on the Dutch dance chart. Of some reason, I don't know how it happened, but and that guy. Is now Joachim, which is my partner still 30 years later. So we met under great circumstances in the studio, and so we turned out that we said, okay, let's write and produce together, and one thing led to another, and it turned out that he is now still my partner, and we have been traveling the world together, working with artists all around the world. And what one really proof of why I do this was that we got an opportunity to work with an new artist that actually Oprah Winfrey found on a show that she had a part of her show called Talented Kids Around the World, and an artist from the Philippines called Cherise won. This is a long story. I'm going to try to keep it short, but so Oprah calls the only one that she knew could do a good um, good thing with her, and that was David Foster, the big David Foster, the Whitney Houston producer, David Foster. And he was like, no, but I'm not the right producer for this. And at the same time, I was on a dinner next to a really nice woman called James that I had no idea who she was, but this is a few years ago, so the CD times, I always had a CD with our songs. So at that dinner, I gave her the CD. Turns out that James is James Foster's sister to David Foster, and she plays the song to David, and he really loves the song. And David Foster calls me, and boom, we're on a journey that we produced 3 songs on Cherie's album. We traveled around the world recording, and it was so great. And then when it was launched, I was driving on 405 from Los Angeles airport into Hollywood because I was there at the time, and they played my song on American radio, and I was like, oh my God, it's my song as the premiere of the week. I cannot believe this. that is the moment why I'm doing this, to just this passion of that has now it finally pays off. I've been working so hard in the studio, and now it pays off. Now I hear my song on the radio, and so yeah, that's, I think, is the reason for those moments, is why I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's what. Thank you so much. You capture the heart and soul again of why we are here in the first place. I love that so much. Thank you. We actually have someone who's commented. Is it okay if I read that out loud? And thank you. We do have, for those of you listening to the replay, you might be wondering, how does this happen? We're actually doing this as a live stream, a laid back conversation around all things arts, business, music in this case today. And we have a comment here in our live stream, and it says, a wonderful exchange, exclamation mark. So thank you, Niclas. Thank you so much, Niclas, Sofie, and Arsenamics. If it is okay with the question, the answer is yes, it is. So Niclas, the question is, do you have any thoughts on spatial audio? He does all spatial video for music, and basically just want to know if you're happy with Atmos or other, or think it could be better. So bottom line is, Apple has just released their spatial headset. We can see people now on the streets doing all sorts of funny gestures and movements because of this. And Niclas, yeah, what's your take on spatial?
So I think it's great. It gives a new dimension. And for those who don't really know what it is, it's based on something called Dolby Atmos. And it means more or less that you can put individual sounds anywhere in the sound picture around your head. So you can actually put the vocals, the person singing, up on, in the corner, and you hear it from there. Historically, this has had to be done in a very in a cinema or in a studio with a lot of speakers, because you need many different sources where the sound comes from. What spatial audio is, it's a system that Apple has made, and not only with just a couple of these ones, you can now get this effect by just having two plugs, which means that you don't need the speakers. They do this animation of where the sound comes from in a new way. I think it's brilliant. I have been mixing a few songs in spatial audio, and it takes a few mixes before you figure out, because it's so easy to be blown away by how cool it is to put the reverb in the left-hand corner, and so you overdo it. But if it's done in a good way, it's brilliant. I recently heard a mix of BBC Philharmonic Orchestra playing ABBA songs in spatial audio, and I'm telling you, when I heard it and I closed my eyes, I thought I was in that concert hall. It was like it was amazing. So I think we will hear more and more music with spatial audio, which puts you, when you close your eyes, on a concert arena or in a concert hall or whatever. So yes, I really like it.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for answering that question, Niclas. It was Bill Schacht who asked it. And Bill actually did a talk. We organize a monthly meetups. We bring a lot of experts in, just like we're doing here. So this is basically between the meetups and plus. So we had Bill to talk about spatial on one. We've had Artily there to talk about NFTs and digital art. We've had Billy Booman, who talked about generative AI. We had Zara Zamani from Niyoki to talk about the immersive, metaverse and multiverses and decentralized matrix. So it's just so nice to see how all these how music, arts, and tech come together, and the what it opens up for a creator, not only in your own field, but also to collaborate with creators from other fields, and then merge with the tech community. Because I want to I want to share something. I spoke to, well, I think it was Zara and Yoki, but I've also talked to others who are come from the tech side. And I've asked them, what is your biggest challenge? And they've said, on numerous occasions, well, we've got the tech, we've got all of that. We just need the creators. So this is, again, just a shout out to all of you who are creators. There are a lot of tech companies out there now who are looking, including Apple. They've said that too. They're putting it out there, but they want you to come in and actually use it, just like Niclas here is saying that he's doing, so that they can develop the technology and to become, it's in its full version. I think that's pretty exciting, Niclas.
It's super exciting. Yeah, super exciting.
Yeah, fantastic. I have one more. I noticed we're actually getting closer to the end of the session. And thank you
Mm,
so much, everybody, for tuning in live. I really love to connect with you like this. And again, Niclas, to have a conversation like this, yeah, it makes the day. I do have I'm going to read one more comment here. And then afterwards, feel free to drop more comments below. I would love to also hear your biggest takeaway from this session. And obviously, Niclas isn't going anywhere. So if you have more questions afterwards, we will make sure to just point you in the right direction. So just a quick question for you, Niclas. It says, thanks a lot for this session, Sofie and Niclas. I also have a question, if it's fine. I'm a producer DJ. I wanted to see if there's any chance of sending over a track or two for some feedback, if possible. Well. Niclas, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I receive it's all. I wish I could say yes to everything, because it's also a question of time. But of course, I love listening to music, so I listen in the capacity I can, and the best way of doing that is to use any of the social media channels to do it, and send over a link. It's just to search for Niclas Molinder on Facebook, for example, and send me a message over there. And or you can use the any of the creator tools, but preferably use Session Studio, the one I'm behind, and share, upload the track there, and the recording there, and then just send a shared link to me, and I can listen over there. So yes, maybe we can add, if I just give you an email address, I can give one of the email address that you can put in the information about this session, and they can use that email address to reach out.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to do that now, or should I add it later? You can add it to the show notes, or
No, but
what?
let's send it to. Let's use my publishing address for this. So use Niclas, Niclas at redfly.se. That's the best email address to email it to.
That is a pretty generous offer, I have to
Yeah.
say, Niclas. So, and a fair warning to everybody: please just only send material that you feel is of good enough value for Niclas to take a look at. Because, as you said, you are obviously swamped with music. But it's very generous. Thank you, Niclas, and thank you, Radok. I cannot see who actually wrote that question, but it was a good question, and we had a wonderful answer to that.
Mm.
So, as we're about to wrap up, again, I'd love to hear your feedback for those of you who are listening now to this session, whether live or the replays. Please leave your biggest takeaway. Would love to learn it, and help us share, and also spread the word about what we're doing here. This is completely free. We don't have any paid sponsors, and it's really just, wanting to provide value, wanting to help you see results in your creative businesses. And I want you to know that we are here for you. We're rooting for you, and guests like Niclas, who's an expert in his field, and we've had other guests, and we will have more coming forward. We're all here to support you, and I really wholeheartedly believe that as a community, we'll learn and grow together. Because today it's too complex. No one can have all the answers, but we can figure things out together. So it means a lot from me personally. So thank you for that. Final questions to you before we wrap up. Where do you see yourself in, let's say, 1, 3, 5 years ahead of time? When I work and coach and mentor creatives, we often create our future history, basically imagining that you are a year ahead in time, or 3 or 5, even maybe even longer, depending on where you are. And then you're looking back at those years. It's like your best future version looking back, and basically being so thankful for all the amazing things that have happened to you. So I'm just curious, with your future history, Niclas, where do you see yourself? What's your dream outcome?
So first, I will spend more time here, because what I've been doing now for the last 10 years has actually drawn me away from this, because there's not been enough time. So I will be doing more music. Actually, I'm working on something that is really just for myself at the moment, but I'm working on something. I bought a grand piano a few years ago, and I'm playing more than ever right now on my grand. So more music. And also, I think that I've learned so much of the last 10 years working with this. So I can really connect the dots between the different parts of the music industry. I know it very well. So I see myself not so operational in one or two projects, I would like to share my knowledge on a more wider basis, maybe more on board levels or advisory roles, because there's so much I would like to share and give to a wider, in a wider spectra, and not just on working with one or two projects. So in 3 to 5 years, maybe you see me in a couple of boards, and I don't know, but that is what I would like to do.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to answer? You're doing several interviews, I'm sure, and you often, I'm sure, also get sort of similar questions. But is there something we should know about you? Something where you feel like, I actually would like to talk a little bit about this too?
Actually, not about myself, but I earlier during our talk today, I said that we're going to come back to it, and we have actually not touched it. So, to all you creators out there, when you create the music, make sure that you know who did what, where, and when, and remember it, because it needs to be transferred to the 5 numbers. And we're not going to now, because we are running over time, but they are called IPI for songwriters, ISWCs for the musical works that you create as a songwriter. The recording is called ISRC. Every contribution by performers and the artist on the recording, they have an IPI in certain territories, especially Europe. And there's, on top of those 4, there's a 5th one called ISNI. Those 5 together needs to be assigned, linked, and matched before you release your sound recording, or song, as we say, on the market. So please use Clip or any other source if you don't know what those 5 numbers and identifier means, and make sure that you understand them and why they exist, and make sure that the information from the studio gets transferred to those numbers. Because if you do that, the industry will find you and the money will find you.
Oh, fantastic. Final question, Niclas. I've asked this before, and I'm going to ask you now. Is there anyone, or maybe several people, that you feel we should invite to Ars Dynamics Talk to have conversations like this? Who would you recommend, or who would you want to see here?
There's 2 names, and I would like to focus on the songwriter side, because songwriter side is the most exposed for the challenges and the problems. I would really recommend to have the same discussion with Helene Lindvall, that represents EXA, the European Composer Authors Alliance. She is a brilliant mind, and she knows everything inside out, and she represents all the songwriters in Europe. And her equivalent in America is called Michelle Lewis, and she represents an organization called SONA, Songwriters of North America. So it would be good to have both, not maybe at the same time, but to get the American and the European aspects of being a songwriter, because it's different sometimes. So those are my strong recommendations.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I've made a note. We're building a library of great people and to talk to. And for those of you listening again, if you have anyone that you feel we should invite, please let me know. We are covering the entire cultural and creative industries. So we will also have people working with photography, visual arts, gaming, everything that's included in the sort of wider term cultural and creative industries. Because we might feel that we are not that similar, but at the same time, there are so many synergies. There's so many things that we are faced with that are actually more alike and similar than we think. The discussion we had today is being one. Many creators don't know about their rights. Many creators don't know where to go to do that. It feels overwhelming. And hopefully today, thanks to you, Niclas, it will be a little bit easier to navigate that. And yes, I will put the links in our notes, and feel free to reach out anyone. And for those of you who are members also of Ars Dynamics, these sessions that we're doing now, speaking of AI, we're creating our own library where you can search through all these videos, and soon you will have your own bot that you can talk to 24/7. It will also pull information from these videos. So if you want to know more about that, stay tuned. I will post more about that shortly. So thank you so much for being so generous with your time, Niclas. I really appreciate you. And thank you everybody for watching, and welcome back again next week. So keep on making magic, both on and off stage. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.